Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Tom joined by Taco here. And as we leave Europe and head towards North America, we're very excited to catch some of the high-end action. I believe we're going to take a look at Elevate today.
And Elevate versus Flashpoint, in fact. And these are two teams where we kind of know what to expect from Elevate. I think that they're a team who certainly proved themselves at the most recent LAN. DoctorL especially having some pretty standout moments. And he's also just been one of those players where I think has recently come up and out of being like bottom level consideration towards more of a top 3 like jungle contender.
For sure. I mean, I think he's really been able to step up and fill exactly the void that the team really asked for and kind of needs, because a team like that kind of needs somebody to really be that catalyst, and that's what we're seeing.
And I really like some of the stuff that he's also been able to introduce to the table, but it's not going to be easy taking on some of these Flashpoint guys. I mean, you've got some pretty prominent members on that roster as well, and I think a lot of the North American scene would probably agree that most of these teams that we're going to be seeing up against each other, at least for broadcasts, are also going to be teams that can take a set off of each other any given day of the week.
That's really the most fun, is that watching how competitive these teams are amongst each other. So let's jump right into it. Picks and bans right away for game number 1. Don't forget, since we moved from the console series into more of a league format, everything going to be best of 3. So Flashpoint on the left side of your screen with the first pick and the first ban. Now, metas amongst the PC and the console used to be very distant, but these days I think they're very similar. They do have some differences, and that has more to do with player tendency than anything else. So when we look at these bans, not too surprised. Achilles Shore Odin might seem interesting, but this is sort of the next step, right? Instead of banning the healers, you ban the Odin and play the healers, right?
Potentially. I think that also Odin is just one of those picks where you just don't want to have to deal with it, especially with that recent resurgence of Xbalanque after his buff. I think there's been a lot more contest over picks like that, and so you want to just try and make it as easy of a situation as possible. Here's another guy that's been making a lot of waves happen recently, Guan. Ever since he got buffed, he has certainly been taken heavy note of by a lot of teams.
Yeah, minor buff as far as the basic attacks is concerned. He's able to clear on the 3rd strike, but a bigger conversation is going to be the passive change. Just healing for a zillion, no big deal there. Elevate going to respond by picking Kuzenbo first overall for their draft now alongside the Xbalanque. Kuzenbo does well against Guan Yu because of the Tallow Assault, but it's still an interesting pick to see it this high.
I don't know how to feel about the Kuzenbo as in that top 3 pick selection. Yeah. I feel like that's going to be one of those choices where it's never going to really be banned against you. It'd be kind of an oddball ban to make. That feels a little bit more like Flashpoint just have some inside information over everything else. But maybe this could be part of the reason why Kuzenbo at least has that Watery Grave available and often enough for the CC immunity against the Daji. And Janus as well. When you think of Daji, you typically want a high burst guy that's going to be able to make something happen after they all get pulled in off the powwow. But Janus doesn't necessarily scream that opportunity by himself.
Yeah, Janus can do it, but perhaps not as well as some of the other choices when you look at the world of Poseidon or Thoth guy, right? Daji, I gotta say, I flat out don't like this selection into the Xbalanque. Usually you look across the way and you say, how many of them have CC immune ultimates? Well, Xbalanque doesn't, but he's got CC immunity on his dash. And I think it's very easy to, unless you're going to tag snap, because don't forget, the CC immunity on Rising Jaguar is only the second part. If you're not tag snapping, you're just not going to snatch this Xbalanque. So, not my favorite jungle choice.
I think there's still some viability to be had for it, though, simply because it will require Elevate to pay more mind as far as their positioning is concerned, and they can't just use their escapes willy-nilly, because you never know if with Daji, maybe she opts for the blink relic, and then you have to worry about this Daji blinking in, immediately powwowing, and catching a member or two out of position when you were originally trying to just hard disengage.
Hachiman and Sylvanus going to round out FP's draft here. Guan Yu likely to wind up in that solo lane with Daji in the jungle. But then the Z-Man Senior, Zeus himself, one of Aggro's favorites. He's going to be selected here. I got to say, I really do like Zeus.
I like Zeus. We've seen how much damage he can do even in the last set. For example, Fly had a pretty outstanding Zeus game, so I think that's the exact same thing Elevate has in mind here.
Let's get right to it. Elevate on the right side will be on the top end of your spectator UI. And like I said, I'm really looking at Z-Man Senior. He's going to be doing a lot of damage, and he's going to be able to really punish specifically the Sylvanus.
And Sylvanus is an interesting one here because we were talking about it before this game started. There's a lot of like prominent standout members for Flashpoint available on this roster, and I think there's been a lot of shakeups even because we see Nexamiss in that support role as opposed to the solo lane that he came to land playing.
Yeah, very different actually. Just taking a look at that one now, and at the end of the day, I think the biggest deal is to look at Zachsy and how he reacts with a brand new support. Because as a hunter main yourself, I mean, you definitely notice game to game the differences in support. Not just talking about like hyper on the big ends of things, but even the small things. How do you handle the lane? How do you handle wave 2?
The fact that Zachsy is on this team right now instead of Mr. White, I believe, I mean, that's already a huge enough shakeup as is. But Zachsy will be making his way back into the console scene of things, this time just with Elevate.
So here, watching DoctorL here on the Thor, very excited to see him in the jungle. He's starting that Transcendence number 1. I assume it to be a Transcendence. Maybe, of course, could be a Hydra Man, but I assume it's going to be Trans. So it starts off with, what, 10 power? This, comparatively speaking to what we see sometimes out of Mace, etc. Is this a positive pick? Do you like this?
I think it's different for Thor players especially, but I wouldn't put it past DoctorL to not opt for the Hydras just because of the fact that he's playing Thor. You typically want to have just the hammer stun into the immediate follow-up of the tap before you go into the spin to win, and then you look for the auto attacks after. That 40% it can make a huge difference in terms of the bonus damage afterwards, because I don't believe that this is the patch where it's up to 50% damage on the high
Right, not just yet, but even still, there is a lot of basic stat canceling in that world, and gotta apologize, folks. Taco and I did some interesting analysis that was a little bit, let's say,
I'm fried.
off base. So IAmTheHamster will be playing that support Kuzenbo and Nexamiss on the solo Geb. And honestly, I think it's kind of funny just watching how focusing on some of the other aspects of the game can take you away from the obvious. We're trying to look beneath the surface, so bear with us. Nexamiss is going to be on that solo lane Geb. Something that has been really, really popular, specifically in the console scene. Got to give all the shout-outs in the world, or specifically in the minor league scene. Got to give all the shout-outs in the world to Mando Warrior, who in the minor league scene brought out the solo lane Geb at first. And then since then, we've seen a number of players respond by doing the same. Nexamiss, just another player in the latest string of players going for Geb solo.
There's something to be said about Geb solo, though. I mean, Delnyy on the Guan can pose a lot of threats just in terms of team sustain. So I guess one of the best ways to try and match that is to just look for their survivability that you're going to be able to find off the Geb shields as opposed to just the direct team healing. And Zachsy looking to put some smackdown down, but Elevate could have put themselves in a pretty awkward position now because Jumpahh's on the back end.
Yeah, Jumpahhh shows up, activates the sprint. He's going to look for the body block as well. Can't find it. And Matt Koiz, first one on the board with the first blood.
Not exactly ideal, but still better than nothing at all.
Sure.
And Sylvanus with that first blood means that Koiz could possibly just have some really early boots online for himself. That's never a bad thing for the team. However, I know that Jumpahhh was certainly itching for a first blood opportunity.
I mean, certainly. Had the best gank on, possible. Didn't have to expend any abilities or even a blink. He's got beads, but didn't have to use any jumps or anything to really engage. Saved everything for the disengage. And goes ahead and sets his team up for the first blood. Nice look there from Flashpoint's jungler. Panda mid. Somebody that we haven't spoken too much about. Level 4, comparatively speaking, to Commando Snipes Zeus. Interesting to see how this matchup goes.
You just had to add the extra Z in, right?
It's Commando Snipes.
It's not like screaming
Commando Snipes. Well, because it goes lowercase, uppercase, so it's
emphasis on the ending one. I see what you're going for. That makes perfect sense. Speaking of which, I think part of the reason why Panda mid is trailing just a little bit, despite being honest, is because he doesn't want to deal with that Zeus damage. If you get hit by a single chain lightning and followed up into the detonate with all 3 charges stacked around you, that is quite a pretty chunk of your HP that I don't think Panda's really all that willing to lose so early on here.
Exactly, and the Janus is, how you say, Janus is less demanding of the damage, right? When you see the Zeus has to be ahead. It has to be doing damage. As a Janus, you can affect the game in other ways. So his early game is not necessary that he's, you know, #1 in farm. He can get by just by portaling Jumpahhh out of trouble, and then later on hitting people with the unstable. Whereas Zeus, he's got to be doing damage, otherwise he's not doing nothing.
It's just kind of, I don't want to say awkward, but it does feel a little bit awkward right now for Elevate with Nexamiss on this Geb solo. I think it's just because I'm so used to seeing Nexamiss on the Warriors that he tends to really flourish on, because that, to me, is Nexamiss' style to a T.
I agree.
He loves spamming his abilities, being up in your face, and Geb just doesn't do that. I mean, Delny's pitched a tent on his tower line and has not even cared about getting outpoked because he just wants to keep Nexamiss pressured out with the creeps providing as little gold as possible since he opted for the Warrior's Blessing.
Well, Delnyy, first of all, certainly knows what he's doing, and he's going to be a tough opponent no matter what. But with me for Nexamiss, I want to see this successful because I think it can be. But here's the deal, Taco. If it's not successful, it's a prime example of a team going for the meta and not what they're good at.
I'm surprised that DoctorL chose to back off there, and I think it was because of how much of a threat Jumpahh's Powwow ultimate really poses. And DoctorL trying to invade those Harpies too, but that'll prove to be unsuccessful. And I think that Delnyy won't be much longer until he starts deciding to take those Harpies by himself. I mean, he's got so much pressure right now in the solo lane. I don't think that Nexamiss could really do anything about it if Delnyy were to rotate elsewhere.
Yeah, it'd be pretty tough. It'd definitely be pretty tough. One of the nice things that Nexamiss does have is the movement speed with respects to rollout, so you might be able to catch up. How much of an impact does that actually make? Different story. Left side, Flashpoint do have vision on the Gold Fury.
Bit of a four-man split happening there, though, and Panda mid, not the healthiest mid. He's going to need a back, and think that DoctorL, IAmTheHamster, and Commander Snipes are aware of it. They're going to be taking a look over at Koiz's beautiful portal to get him out of there, but only for a moment, I feel, because DoctorL looking to land right on top of him.
Can't find the stun. Still the tree in trouble. Walking away from the Zeus ult. Pushed back in. And IAmTheHamster shows why that Kuzenbo pick was so good.
This could be big here, though, for Flashpoint. They really need to go in and decide if they're going to actually try and full commit here. IAmTheHamster going to be the first one to fall out of everybody, and DoctorL has taken a spill as well. Jumpahhh with a nice little double kill off the Powwow.
Meanwhile, going to land right in front of Zachsy. Could have been in trouble, but Flashpoint's team has showed up in kind. After that team fight, I know Hamster went down, but I really like the Kuzenbo. So the Kuzenbo is going to push you back into the Zeus ultimate, sure. But the Kuzenbo against the Daji, which is funny because the Kuzenbo was selected before the Daji. You saw as soon as Daji jumped on him, he goes in the ultimate and is just disrupting Daji. She has to use her first ability where she's knock-em immune. If she's already used that and then jumps on somebody, that ultimate, Water and Grave, is going to be perfect heal for this Daji that really wants to stick on you.
Yeah, using the 1,000 cuts, I think, was a really smart move here.
Yeah.
Also gave Jumpahhh a small window of opportunity to get the Powwow off because he was able to create enough space between the two, and that's a nice spot to be in, because had he not gotten that Powwow off, DoctorL has a pretty decent chance of surviving, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. Probably just walks away no problem without Jumpahhh, so. Big chunk coming out from the hammer toss. DoctorL going in the sky. Jumpahhh looking for an escape. This time, DoctorL will land it. Spin to win. And the good Doctor picks up #2 for his team.
Even with the purification bees, DoctorL is not missing that one. Had more than enough space there to secure it off that Berserker's barrage. And just an unfortunate situation for Jumpahhh to be in. Didn't have his ult at the same time.
Just a little bit rough. Nice moves from DoctorL this time, actually hitting the ultimate, which is a big deal, so good for him. Last time around, missed it, but wasn't, you know, of any consequence. Koiz still went down. DoctorL here, early on, will be building into that Transcendence. And I gotta say, I do like the idea. Transcendence, a little bit pricey, but with the 10% cooldown added in Season 5, I'm a fan. Although usually, Taco, I'm a fan of this item in the 3rd spot instead of the 2nd.
I'm not a fan of this item on junglers, period.
Really?
If I had to be completely honest with it. And I say that because you just get so much more benefit going either the hi-rez or the Jotuns. Hi-rez because it's a lot cheaper than hi-rez Transcendence.
Sure.
And then the Jotuns, you just get 20% cooldown reduction as opposed to the 10%. And you actually get some of that flat penetration, which is going to be more useful during these earlier stages. Right now, Transcendence is on the Thor. It's just too pricey for a jungler option to be made as a real viable choice in that 2nd slot. That's why we've seen a lot more junglers stray away from that early rush of the Transcendence. It's just too expensive for what you actually get out of it. And I think if Elevate were super far ahead at the 10-minute mark, I could justify it. But to be even, and in fact even a little bit slightly behind, I do think DoctorL is kind of hurting himself on this one.
That's why I like 2nd item Jotuns into a 3rd item Transcendence. Jotuns, I think, sort of bolsters you right off the jump. Jumpahhh in some trouble. Nene gonna miss, but the ultimate out of the Kuzenbo will be used to avoid Jumpahh's nonsense. But Delnyy making the rotation will come off the horse a little bit too late. And this time, the Kuzenbo helps out the enemy team, pushes them out of the Zeus ult. Eesh.
Everybody wants a piece of DoctorL, but they're not going to be able to find it. Beautiful shield by Nexamiss off of the rotation to make sure that Thor can stay alive for just moments longer. And that little moment is all DoctorL needed in order to get out of there.
Yep. Just a little extra bit. Totally gets out of there, no problem. And just to wrap up the conversation, I like the 2nd item Jotuns into Transcendence. Largely because I think Jotuns is going to sort of boost you up. And then Transcendence, yes, is expensive, but by the time you're at your 3rd item, Gold Furies are already happening, or Towers are happening, so you get some extra gold. Hamster here by the Gold Fury, tosses out the Kappa, but it's still going to be all Flashpoint, and Hamster going to get his life there. Jab ults a single player, actually doing a ton of damage to Koiz, but has no finisher. So Gold Fury goes to Flashpoint, relatively uncontested. 2,200 gold in the lead.
I thought the Nene was going to steal it for a second.
No way.
That would have been awful. For Flashpoint, of course. Elevate would have been celebrating and like, I can't believe our half-health Kuzenbo just stole that with his Nene Kappa.
I mean, I would have been celebrating, but I don't think that's,
That's a pretty depressing moment when a 4-man strong team loses the Gold Fury to a Nene Kappa toss-out. That's... Somebody needed to be zoning if that were the case.
But what if he throws the Kappa around you?
No. There's no excuse.
You're zoning me, and I just we're zoning, and then I just step to the right and go, hey!
Not a single chance in hell.
And just toss our little...
It should never happen.
No?
Speaking of things that, should hopefully never happen. Poor IAmTheHamster, man. I think that we've seen the moments where Kuzenbo has really stuck out and made himself a pick to be noticed, but he's also, I think, been the focus a lot of times here for Flashpoint.
A little bit. He's down about a half level. Nice rotations coming out from him. I think the Kuzenbo is interesting. I feel like the Kuzenbo is selected alongside the Zeus, hoping that they would pick Zeus next.
Well, I think Jumpahhh also heard you a little bit earlier on, going for that 3rd item Transcendence. Already has a 20% cooldown reduction from the Jotuns and looking to add onto it even more with 10% off the Transcendence. It's a huge power boost, helps out with a little bit of the mana cost, and also it's in the 3rd item slot, which is a little bit more forgiving than straight in 2nd.
Especially since they got the bonus gold from the Gold Fury. Like, this is... 3rd item is when you start to see teams making these objective calls. So you're not just getting the regular gold that you're expected. You're going to be, amplifying whatever item is in that 3rd spot. So I like the Transcendence there. Should be interesting. Jumpahhh going to continue his reign of terror right now. Quite the city boy, 2-1-2.
The horrible burns, though. There's something to be said about
attack speed.
Horrible burns proccing from the hi-rez. On top of all the damage it already does, because it's just that one giant punch of damage off of her first ability, and it's really, really strong. And so the hi-rez does tend to funnel into that a little bit better, but I think Jumpahhh prioritizing the mana sustain that he'll acquire from the Transcendence.
I think you'll find hi-rez fits into the build even with the Transcendence. Thor ult, not useful there. Ouch. DoctorL, excuse me, went up, but came down on nobody. Zachsy's going to beads out the pull from Jumpahhh, who didn't expect the beads. Nice job there from the Xbalanque. Flashpoint in the enemy jungle. Now Elevate replying, but not going to find much of anybody. Delnyy by himself. This could be a bad spot for the Guan to be in, Taco. There's a knock-up. They're going to catch up to him. Trying to get to the portal and does. And the Zeus detonate, not enough. Nice job there from Panda mid again to provide the portals for his team.
Doesn't really cost Elevate anything, though, to just spam their abilities on top of this Guan Yu, and they're able to pack enough of a punch, I think, to raise some concerns for Delnyy. You know, on Guan Yu, you kind of think of yourself as being a little bit invincible, but that's not always the case. I think that Commando snipes on the Zeus especially going to have to really stand out here for Elevate if they want to have a solid chance at taking out Flashpoint's Guan.
I think that's momentary, or reflective of the moment, rather. He has built into that Hide of the Urchin, and has no stacks on it just yet. So and that's the only magical defense that he's got outside of his Warriors starter. So right now he's definitely very vulnerable, specifically to Zeus damage. But later on, that's going to go down because of stacks on the Urchin. And of course, kind of expect Delnyy to go Genji's Garb. Checo on the left-hand side, looking for the solo kill. Can't catch it. And now might be punished by IAmTheHamster. Michael Checo reminds him, I am the hunter. Beads and walks away.
Does end up losing his purification beads, though. I think that that's still a really important cooldown for Hamster to pull. And I'm surprised that he even used him to begin with, because I don't think that Zachsy would have re-aggressed there. I think that Zachsy was all too concerned about surviving himself to have even remotely bothered, because he wouldn't have been shoved underneath the T1 tower. It's mostly to the tower line itself, and even if he'd taken a shot or two inside of that tower, I still don't see that as a kill opportunity for Elevate.
The worst part there, though, is and I think this is a borderline call, which I suppose I don't mind Zachsy or Checo burning the beads there. If Hamster gets him onto the tower, Hamster pushes him on the tower and then ults him onto the tower, and that's the tower shots is enough to kill Checo. The question is Checo within range of the sumo slam under the tower?
But you can hold your beads long enough to tell.
To that moment.
You just beads the ult, if anything.
Yeah. I'll agree with that one. Elevate starting the objective right about now. Got it down to about 90%, but clearly more interested in the team fight. That said, Zeus Ultimate, one of the better abilities for confirming these objectives. There goes Nexamiss in with the blink onto Michael Checo, doing a ton of damage and forcing the Hunter out the long way. Thor gonna land on top and send him all the way back to the fountain.
That couldn't have been more perfect for DoctorL if you asked it to be. I mean, isolating by himself. Checo runs away from his whole team thinking that that'll be the safest option, but there's a Thor ult waiting for you whenever your mounted archery ends.
Meanwhile, Elevate still trying to deal with this jungler. Ultimate coming out from Koiz, and Panda mid going to successfully capitalize off of that one. DoctorL taking one of his own name. Now Snipes on the back end trying to keep his distance because Jumpahhh is around. The assassin could do work against the mage. Instead, jumping on Hamster, trying to find an exit is the Guardian.
Ooh.
That's that.
Nene Kappa gonna provide enough of a slow to get him away from Jumpahhh, so IAmTheHamster probably pretty happy here to be backing. This could be a power play moment for Flashpoint. They've used their sustain between the Sylvanus and Delnyy on the Guan in order to regen fully.
Meanwhile, Nexamiss, Zachsy, Commando, still here, still local. Jumpahhh on the left side, trying to run away. Delnyy and everybody pulled off of the objective, looking for danger. Nexamiss still here. Panda mid portals through, can't find the mid lane mage. There's Jumpahhh on the back end, and will find the Hunter. All the while, Michael Checo is on the objective, full gloves, will be able to solo it. Koiz dealing with Nexamiss and the mid lane Zeus. The rest of Flashpoint on their way through. Panda mid escapes there. Objective 25%. Michael Checo, great job. Flashpoint get it. The entire team zones out. Michael Checo with the great heads-up play to go for the gold. And Elevate walk away with it. Or excuse me, Flashpoint walk away with it. 6,000 gold above Elevate.
And DoctorL, I think, was trying to teleport over the wall to try and defend that T1 tower from falling, but Creep's been there just a little bit too long. And Elevate, what once started out as a pretty promising team fight for them, based off that pick onto Checo, is completely flipped around here from Flashpoint sustain.
Yeah, just one. You can't, if you are Elevate and you are looking at the enemy with sustain, your job is to kill them quickly. Shout outs to Thrice. You're not looking for these extended engagements. The second these fights take too long, I mean, you're losing to Delnyy and that Koiz. So it's just, you gotta find the burst damage with snipes. Otherwise, you're not finding anything.
I think they did the best job at picking Checo for sure, but it was lingering and not really helping to provide assistance to make sure that DoctorL could get out from how deep he went. And I think that's where it really went south for Elevate, is that they kind of got trapped into that dance with Flashpoint, and you just can't afford to hesitate against teams with healers. Yeah,
it's a problem. Not allowed to really take time to think. You've got to be doing things in the moment. Otherwise, you wind up outside of it.
It's not always an easy decision to make, though.
I'm sorry.
It really isn't.
That was one of my most Madden moments. You gotta find yourself thinking in the moment, otherwise you're gonna be out of the moment there, Taco.
I'm not mad enough for this, I'll be honest.
I'm mad. That's where I am. DoctorL, he's in the sky. Gonna land right in front of Panda mid, get the beads out, but already do tons of damage. Nice wall, like the idea, not the execution. Panda mid, pretty much out of this team fight, does have the ultimate if he chooses, and probably should, but just gonna head back to base. Nope, there it is, but it just misses everybody. So instead, Panda mid on the back end, a little bit of trouble. Matt Koiz with a nice pull and a nice knock up on Nexamiss and Zachsy. Zachsy finds the Aegis, but Checo gets found by Zeus Juice. Matt Koiz as well. 2 kills for Z-Man Sr. And Elevate look like they're on their way to winning a team fight.
Oh, that's going to be DoctorL using his purification beads, and Jumpahhh will just be controlled into his death, I believe. Thor going to catch him over the corner as Commando snipes, cleans it up, and Elevate with a super strong team fight. That's the cleanness that you need to have. So unfortunate the Gold Fury isn't there, though.
The Pyromancer is, but it's a small objective. Yeah, this is just bad timing for Elevate. They turned on after the fight that won the Gold Fury. You got to turn on for the Gold Fury fight.
They'll still get the T1 tower, which is a strong secondary option. And I say strong secondary because it's opening up the map. And I think that the mid lane, T1 going down is a lot more important than Elevate having lost their T1 in duo.
Yeah.
Mostly because of the fact that all the action is going to be taking place near the mid lane area. You don't see it very often where teams are just like, hey guys, let's only fight in the dual lane near the T1 tower.
Yeah, I'd agree so. I also think the tier 1 tower, it gives you less of a place to fall back on next time you're looking at the Gold Fury, etc. I do like that choice. Michael Checo on the Hunter had a great team fight there on the left side. Big shout-outs to him. Although whoever the call was to stick Checo on the objective is really the key there.
I think Flashpoint have got to start taking note of Commando snipes here on the Zeus. 3-0-1 and been a participant of 4 out of Elevate's 6 kills. This has been a pretty slow-played match, though. The team fights have been very precise and calculated from both sides. And even when Flashpoint were on the bottom end of that last engagement, I can still respect Jumpahhh and Delnyy trying to combine forces to keep the engagement going as long as possible. Maybe see if they could buy some time for their teammates to revive and head back into the fray, but just didn't happen to be the case. That's something more so for Flashpoint to continue looking at as the match continues to go on.
Yeah, one of the big takeaways there, if you're an Elevate fan, is to notice how quickly Panda mid got taken out of the team fight, right? You saw DoctorL comes down, lands the perfect combo, and Panda mid right away goes, I'm gone. I can't deal with this. That's the quickness that we have to see. Otherwise, everybody heals up.
I wish that instead, though, Panda mid would have just continued to fully back and then ult in from base with maybe 2 members from Flashpoint also choosing to back with him.
There was a moment right here where everybody, see where Matt Koiz was? Everybody was lined up, and he had the vision because teammates were there.
This is going down fast.
Yeah, that's easily Flashpoint's objective. And comes Elevate trying to say what up, but Flashpoint's already done the dirty work. Now looking for the fight after the fact. Zeus ult gonna catch Matt Koiz just a little bit. Gotta time that one better, boys. Delny's got a portal to walk through. And that's safe and sound. Paolo will be up defensively, and that be that taco. Big damage coming out from the Flashpoint
It's going to cost him a T1.
Yeah.
That will most definitely be Flashpoint's T1 tower. Yeah, without a doubt. Elevate, they've already got 4 members over there. Everybody on their map is hovering this mid to left-hand side. You've got to find something, considering they just lost the Gold Fury.
24-minute Gold Fury is worth a lot more than 500 gold, though. So, yeah, Elevate gets something, but definitely a loss there. Jumpahhh going to be looking for DoctorL. Beautiful stun there coming out from the jungler.
They're thinking about it.
Delnyy, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but they're going to lose another objective. Elevate are just not in position to contest, and I can't tell if it's just the lack of wards or just like not really paying attention, but you can't afford to stay sleeping against a team like Flashpoint. These are all way too experienced players.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like you ever zone out when you're playing like a casual ranked game, right? You die, or you're back to base, and you just like walk up mid, and then you hear the noise, and you go, oh. Obviously, they're doing that, right?
It's just the back-to-back losses, though.
Yeah.
And Elevate, sure, it's a pretty okay response to at least take out another Team 1 tower, open up the map a little bit further in your favor, but that just works against them when everybody decides to back at the same exact moment. No one seems to really be making the active call-outs like, hey, someone stick around for Pyromancer. Hey, somebody check the Gold Fury. That needs to start happening now, or else Flashpoint are going to win this game purely off of objective control. Yeah,
I completely agree. That's really been the bane of Elevate's existence so far, has been objective control, or rather lack thereof. Has not been able to compete with Flashpoint in that regard. And usually when that's the case, you look at the draft, right? And you go, okay, well, Flashpoint have a Hachiman, and they've got a long-range mage to confirm the objective, right? Elevate has Zeus.
I think that Elevate have a stronger 5-on-5 team fight. Speaking of which, they're trying to portray it right now. DoctorL going super deep onto Michael. Checo won't be able to find it even through the Thor ultimate and get Cataclysm.
Matt Koiz gets stunned out over the wall, but Elevate largely took everybody's cards earlier on. My point about the draft was the other side was that you might look, okay, they've got a couple of choices, but Elevate with the Zeus ult and the Thor ult should not be giving up this many objectives. They do have the tools to fight into it. Delnyy fought into here, takes everything, but he's still going to, well, he's going to die at the end of things, but he's done a lot against Elevate. Matt Koiz here, getting knocked up by the Gad. Meanwhile, hot heat. Welcome to Cairo. And the jungler from Jumpahhh is able to go insane. Double kill for Jumpahhh. Double kill for Panda mid. And the hamster is going to be caged up by the black and white bear. Deicide for Flashpoint. All of the objectives have belonged to them. And Elevate will watch as the Fire Daddy goes to Flashpoint.
Something had to happen off of that through space and time that Panda mid connects. 4 individual members from Elevate just grouped into the perfect ball of devastation against that through space and time. And it was only a matter of time, no pun intended, before Jumpahhh works his way towards all of those guys that just got whacked and tosses out some of that dodgy damage. Once that came to fruition, Elevate didn't stand a chance in that team fight. Even though it looked really promising. I mean, Delnyy gets taken out in an instant. He overextends just a little bit too far away from the rest of his team, gets pulled in by IAmTheHamster thanks to the nice Kuzenbo sumo slam, but there's only so far you can go before your team has to catch up with it eventually.
Yep. That is certainly the truth. 28-17 on the clock. 12-7 on the charts. And a whole lot of lead on everything else. Flashpoint up 5 digits in both experience and gold. Guan hitting really hard. I mean, he's hitting jungle camps for 420 at this point. Really intense stuff coming out from the solo lane Guan. Delnyy, certainly been nice here. Did not go the Genji's garb, actually. Went into the Bulwark. Interesting choice.
I think the bulwark is prompted because of the immediate burst damage out of Commando Snipes' detonates. So in case that does become a factor in the team fight, Delnyy wants to make sure that he'll get another surge of health to kind of make up for it.
Right after the fact. Yep. Michael Checo here. Just casually getting the goal. Easy peasy. Still about 2 minutes left on the Fire Giant buff, so Flashpoint going to take their time. And now, well, just look at DoctorL lose his life.
Ooh.
Nice Geb shield. We'll send Jumpa to the other side.
Did that hit him?
No, the Geb shield wore off, but it just barely missed him. If it had hit him at the same time as the Geb shield wore off, we would be saying F for DoctorL. But nope. Close, but no cigar.
Still, DoctorL did end up using his Aegis in all of that, which means he can't be as reckless with his Thor ultimates, and everybody's trying to disengage right now out of Commando Snipes' damage. Another sprint being popped, in fact, just to fully ensure that Flashpoint get out of there.
Thor, on the other hand, will get his ult seen out. That's the most important part, is that Flashpoint know that his ult is cooled out, because they can surge forward without any threat. The Daji as well. Gonna split push in the middle lane.
Jumpahhh was just hunting DoctorL there that whole time, waiting to see where he would land, because the moment that DoctorL tosses out his ultimate, you can expect to see Jumpahhh diving right in with the powwow.
Yep. Just want to make sure that he's able to get control over whomever. Meanwhile, Nexamiss pulled, rooted, jumped up, locked down in a portal. Back to base. That's the important part, folks. He's gone. Delnyy in trouble. Could get detonated on.
He's still alive. He survived throughout all the detonate damage and everything else that Elevate had to offer. IAmTheHamster still trying to stand strong, but it's going to be Jumpahhh committing yet again past the Phoenix even, meaning that Flashpoint get both the Phoenix and Hamster's life.
Delnyy going to group up and be able to heal his teammates there. That's the important part. Middle lane one more time will be the focus. Ping's coming out just a little bit, but Koiz stunned out.
One team fight has really changed just about everything that was happening in this match. I mean, for the longest time, you really couldn't tell who was going to get the better trade of things in a lot of these engagements, because Elevate have the stronger 5-on-5, like we were saying, but Flashpoint are a great comp for diving and committing as well as chasing and picking. And it was kind of just figuring out, will Elevate close out the 5-on-5, or will Flashpoint find the picks after the fact? And it seems as though the picks have won.
And the problem here is that I just think that Elevate have not, I think they've squandered this Zeus pick. And that's funny to say, but I think because of the slash line. But I think this is why experts say that slash lines are deceiving. Commando Snipes is 3-1 and something, maybe 8 assists. There's only 7 kills on the entire team. I'm high. 3-1 and 2 for the mid lane Zeus. But we haven't seen those ultimates be useful in their most useful spots. I think the 2 most exciting spots for Zeus ultimates are objectives and defenses. And we just haven't seen that the effective Zeus ults on the Phoenixes or the objectives.
I think the problem is it's only Commando Snipes who's really been able to have any sort of impact. We saw some promising moments from DoctorL himself, but it didn't stick. DoctorL would connect to the Thor ult, but then Flashpoint would immediately hard disengage and run away. And then what's DoctorL left to do? He's relying on the Zeus ult to do enough damage, or Zachsy even, and that just hasn't been the case here. Elevate aren't able to confirm with their Thor, and that's been the root of the problem in my mind.
I agree. DoctorL can also set up his mid laner for extra confirmation on that Zeus ult.
He's been taken out like 30% every single time. Flashpoint, whether it's Jumpahhh, Panda mid, or Checo, mostly Panda mid and Checo though, that DoctorL have been looking for for good reason.
If DoctorL ults those players in a Zeus ult, they die.
It's getting them inside of the Zeus ult though.
I mean, if he lands on them, Zeus just has to put it down. I'm seeing a lack of cohesion between jungler and mid.
They need Nexamiss to funnel into the CC appropriately instead of applying the CC all at once. I think that's been the main issue, is that Elevate haven't been coordinating their kits nearly as well as Flashpoint.
It's an excellent point there. 3 birds down. Flashpoint focusing on the mid lane here. Panda mid hanging left. Just lightly. Jumpahhh all the way on the right, but a beautiful pull onto The support player could be good. Michael Checo going to run away defensively. Meanwhile, everybody else, including the minions, on the Titan. Flashpoint back up one more time. Elevate looking for another defensive set.
Checo went so far away from everybody. He's not trying to die today. And same can't be said, though, for this Titan, because Elevate had to worry about 3 different waves of fire minions starting to pour into their base on top of all the members from Flashpoint.
Yeah, here comes Jump on the right-hand side. He's going to be important for this one. Nice Zeus ult. But Flashpoint able to just walk away from it one more time. Lack of control there from Elevate.
This is tough stuff now for Elevate, because without that Zeus ult, I think that was the main thing keeping them hanging on and keeping Flashpoint out of their base. Now that that's been expended, it's only a matter of time before Elevate decide, or Flashpoint decide to full commit.
Green means go. Sprint's going to be popped, and everybody from Flashpoint giving everything in. P.S. The Janus ult doesn't affect the Titan, my friends, but it doesn't seem to matter. DoctorL going to take down Panda mid. DoctorL going to take down Michael Checo, and 4 players are going to die on the Titan. But the Titan dies, so that's the important part. Flashpoint with the first kill.
That was some risky business, though, from Flashpoint. I think that all-inning the Titan, knowing full well that every single one of the members from the opposing team is still inside of their base, and not letting those fire creeps really shove in first. Delnyy just went charging in there.
Yeah, on the horse and everything. And when it comes down to it, like I said, I mean, only 1 player was standing. That was the support. The Titan went down at the exact right time, because if it survives, I mean, we might even see the win the other direction, just march up mid lane. So very, very, very interesting job by Flashpoint, but they won it with a W, and that's all that matters.
In the end, you can't complain as long as you get the win, except it probably wasn't as clean as what Flashpoint were originally aiming for. And when you consider how dominant the performance started to be after winning that Fire Giant Pit fight, it is a bit surprising that they would still fully commit to that sort of decision.
Oh well, interesting look there coming out from both teams, with Flashpoint able to earn their victory above Elevate here in our console league. So a nice look nonetheless. The opposing composition, I think, was equipped to deal with what Flashpoint brought, but we just didn't see the execution, and that was an issue for me.
I think that compositions that aren't very forgiving in terms of execution are almost always going to be an inherent disadvantage, especially on console, and that, like you just said, seemed to be the primary issue that Elevate ran into.
Game number